I do mostly watercolor, and there are a few different things that you do, although Kathy did cover a couple of the things that I do with watercolor. I'm probably not quite as professional as Diana, but this is the way I learned how to do this. I buy most of my, I like to do paint to the size that I have or the size that I want. I usually get this size, which is 11 by 14, or I'll get a 12 by 12, or I'll get a 5 by 7. That's normally what I'll have. I can get other ones if I need to. The reason I like this one, it doesn't have real glass, but it has something that you peel off on both sides when you put it together so that it's clear. You do have to be careful of the scratching. But what I like about this is it has two mats. It has an 8 by 10 size and it has a 9 by 12 size. So I don't have to go and spend $11 to have one cut. It comes with it. I have one left over. If I need to, I can take the 8 by 10 and cut it a little bit more to get it so it looks just right. But it's not a whole big deal of getting it square and everything. You can do that right with your ruler and such. I get these 4 at a time. So they're about $32 for 4, making them about $8. And I just do them off Amazon. I know there are people that don't care for Amazon.
Amazon is your friend.
I love my Amazon. Now, what I do is when I get my painting done, this one happens to be a 12 by 12. When I get my painting done, you take, these have the little joggers here. This one has the type that you're used to here, where they fit underneath. And you can, if you're, what I like to do is I like to have a mat, because with colored pencil, with graphite pencil, with pastels, with watercolors, you really do need to have it so it's not going to touch the glass. So that's why you put a mat on it. A lot of times with pastels you want to put even a spacer between the mat and the picture so it can catch any of the little pieces coming down inside there. But what I do then is I take my mat, I don't really want to take this apart, but I'll take the mat and I'll put the mat down, I'll center the picture, put a tape here and a tape here to keep it. I always put a backing on it. I like a matted board on the back of mine, and I'll tell you why. When I put the matted board on, I lay it down, I put the matted board up here, put tape here, put tape here, fold it over. Then, on the back of that board, I'm going to put the same thing as I put on the back of here. Because I don't know, this is a cheap frame. And if somebody wants to put something a little bit nicer, they can just take it out of this frame and put it in and still have all the information. I put all of this information on that matted board that's underneath this piece. That way, they'll always have the information. This particular one, there's a story that goes with it, and that's why this piece is here. I always put, whether it's a print or an original, my card, the name, the medium, and the size of my frame, not the size of the picture. That way, if they want to get another frame, they know what to look for and it's going to fit for them. Now these come without wires. This one happens to come with one of these little gizmos. If you want to, you can take that off. I don't. Because some people like to just set them up and they'll sit on the table. So you have to wire them once you get them in here. And the way I wire them, again, my little favorite, Amazon. I buy my wire, I buy my D-rings, and I buy them 50 at a time. Why? Well, it takes 2 for each one, so that means I can do 25 paintings. And I don't have to keep going back and forth to the store. And they're cheaper if you buy them. You can buy them up to 100 or 1,000 in a bag. You can get one of the, if you go to I've been framed, you can get just one. But they're, you know, they're more expensive. This is just a cheaper way of doing it. So I take these, this one happens to be, I think, a plastic. This one is a wooden. This is my magic tool. What is it? It's a bit. You know, just to let your husband, or some women have drills.
Husbands?
I don't have the drill.
You just have the
I
bit.
just have the bit. Because I do it in my room, and I don't do it that often. What I do is I take my daughter calls it a plus screwdriver. I call it a Phillips, okay? And I measure down how far I want it. Usually you're supposed to put it about a third of the way down, okay? And I figure out where I want it. I put this here, right where I want it. Put my finger on here, I hold it down, and then I start twisting it. Until that'll stay up there and stand up. I don't want all the way through. I just want to start. Why do I want that? I have a little arthritis, and it's hard on my hands to try and start a screw in something like this, especially plastic. And they're little screws, guys. These are little tiny things. And my fingers are big. So I get this hole in here. Drop the screw 3 or 4 times. I put the screw in the little gizmo here. And I put it in my little hole. And then I use my Phillips screwdriver. And it makes it so that this goes, for me, this will go in straighter when I do this.
Yeah.
If I try to do it without this, it could go in crooked. And then I gotta start all over and it's a mess.
Do you know what size drill bit that is? Is it like a 8
little one.
It's a little, well,
Probably, let me see if I can.
That's 16.
and you know, if you use a larger screw, you'll want a little bit bigger one.
Right, you have to have
Or
different
small,
size
or
bits
you
for
want a little
different
smaller.
projects.
Too long.
Right. See, these are, I'll probably drop it while I'm trying to
Okay,
do
this says it's a 2.5.
Okay, 2.5 is this one. And I use it all the time because these are the screws I use.
Millimeter?
So I hope you have a ratcheting screwdriver.
No, I
Finish
just,
up.
it goes right in. I don't have to
Oh,
have a
okay.
ratchet one.
Well, I just.
I mean, it really, when you have it drilled like that,
You don't need it.
you really don't. It just goes right on down in there and I make it nice and tight.
Okay.
Then with the wire, I get it where I get a little bit more wire. You put it through here, through the D-ring. I'm gonna do it like my D-ring is here. And I make sure I have enough for the other side. And I kind of put a loop, put that to the back, and I hold it right there. And then when I wrap it right up next to each other. And I find doing it in a perpendicular manner. See how nice I can get that?
Oh.
And I just keep wrapping it until I get done. See, and then like if you're like Diana, she'd have her little rubber thing in here and make it so that you don't even feel it. But I don't have that. Okay,
I just used electrician's tape over it.
yeah, you can, or plastic tape works
Plastic
too.
tape, yeah.
And you have to do that in a spiral. Any other questions about how you put the wire on? Why you would put a mat on it? Because you don't put a mat on everything.
On the wiring, one thing you might want to point out is you don't want it to be too loose.
Some places like it to be really tight. Most of the art shows around here want it to have a little hill, not a mountain. Wants to have a hill,
Oh.
see, so that it'll hang on there.
It's also important for that tightness is that when your artwork is on the wall, it doesn't flop.
Yeah,
That helps keep it so that it's on the wall.
correct. It's very nice though that if you have a piece like this is it. I called it the Oregon Meadow Experience. When you go out into the Mount Hood, you go find a meadow, and you walk through, you see the flowers, you see the trees, you see the sky, you see the mountain. It's not until you linger in the meadow that you're gonna see the wildlife. There are 8 different animals in this meadow that you won't see. And in reality, if you go out into our forests, into our meadows, you won't see any of the livestock or the live critters until you sit down and be quiet for a few minutes. And then they'll just start coming out. And so what I've done is I wrote that on here so they know why this is a special painting. And I also listed the animals that are in it, so they can find it. Yes?
Just for FYI, at Michael's, they sell those framing in a kit, so you can buy everything all at once in one package.
Yeah, if you
don't
wanna
have to
do
get
one.
the screws or the wiring separately. If anybody doesn't
Yes.
know that, you can buy it in the kit.
Yes.
By that measurements of what you want.
If you only want to do one, that's a good way to do it. But I'm doing more than one, so it's much cheaper doing it the other way. Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Question?
I don't know if anyone else wants to hear, but I'd like to hear the difference of when you want to use the matte versus not.
I use a matte when I have watercolor. I have pencil, whether it be colored pencil or a graphite pencil. If I'm doing pastel, I'll use it.
So
I
dusty
think those are the
materials.
only ones.
Anything on paper?
Yeah.
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 But like acrylics, you don't have to.
Okay.
Oils, you don't have to.
So just the
You
dusty,
don't put glass
dusty
on.
material.
No, you don't put glass on those either. It's the glass that protects this because, a little moisture and this is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I do spray it a little, carefully. But still, it's the glass that's protecting it and it's not touching the glass. That's the reason for having the mat, is so it doesn't touch it.
Is there a rule of thumb for when you want it wired as well? Or I mean, how you want it wired, like the tightness versus the little give, or do you just kind of want to have it a little extra on the side?
If
just in
you're
case you
doing-
need to use it?
If you're going to go to a gallery, if you're gonna do it like we have our menus, this is the type you need. You don't want these. You don't want the little ones up here. They fall off so easy. Now, this is very lightweight. It's not heavy, it's not glass. But it does have a plastic. This is a plastic, and when you get it, there's a sheet that you peel off of this side, and you peel off of that side before you put it in.
I know. It's
Barb, something I failed to mention, if you had a plastic sheet on there, take it off, that's to protect it. Well, when you take that plastic sheet off, you don't have protection. So whenever I do my work, I set it face down on a towel. I do, when I'm putting my frame together, I make sure that anything, the frame is down on a towel so nothing gets scuffed up. And the other thing, I have a squirt bottle, a mixture of water and vinegar. The best thing to clean glass with is water
I
and
also
vinegar.
found out that if you don't do something to protect these frames, they're gonna be scratched when you are trying to sell them. Nobody wants to buy a painting that has a scratched frame. So I get bubble wrap, bags, and I cut them.
Amazon?
Yeah, I can't stand in lines with the way my feet are.
That's just the bubble wrap that comes with all the stuff you bought.
But I like the bags, and I get the bigger bags so that I can it'll protect the frame when it's in transit. Now I can do it like this and carry it and not have to worry.
It's a lot faster than a pile of blankets in my trunk.
Any other
Scarves that I
questions?
use.
Okay, I think that's it. Is there anyone else?
Thank you.
Gary, do you want to tell us anything about framing pastels?
I've tried all kinds of frame ceramics.
Go stand up here, Gary.
You're being
Just a
videotaped.
second, we're going to videotape here.
The main thing about pastels,
Gary, over there.
Oh.
We like to have it all on.
On video?
No, I didn't say that. Yes, you did.
Okay, this is Gary Michael, and he does mostly pastels, right? Do you do oils too?
I've done actually more acrylics lately than anything, but probably 90% of the work I've done over 50, 60 years have been pastels. But the main thing about pastels, you have to remember, is it needs to be protected because it'll smudge so easily. You need to have glass or plexiglass, and there's a type of glass that minimizes the reflections. It costs a little bit more. True View makes one, and Din Glass is another one. But and traditionally, there's been a space between the painting and the glass. And you could do that with a mat, or you can do that with, there's some little plastic strips that you can buy that vary in thickness from 1/8 inch to 1/4, that you can, that have an adhesive on one side. And you
They're
can-
called spacer bars, I think, when I bought them.
Pardon me?
When I bought them, they were called spacer bars, if you asked for them at the art store.
Yeah, sure. So, and I've used in a pinch, I've used little pieces of mat board, or wood, balsa wood, even just in the corners if the support is stiff enough. But, there's a movement or maybe it's an old movement in France to put the glass directly on the pastel. But you have to do that, you have to be very careful that they don't slip or slide against each other, or to smear the painting. So protect it with glass one way or another, and if you can afford to use a non-reflective glass, that makes them look better. And when you hang, anything you have glass over, if you've got it near a window, you're gonna get a lot of reflections, so try to minimize, put them on walls that are not near a window maybe. So that's the main thing, protect the painting so they don't get smeared. I protect mine until they're framed just by slipping them in these little plastic envelopes. And you can buy those by the dozen, and in all the different standard sizes. So that's what I do with mine. So I've got hundreds of them in my studio that are just in plastic envelopes. And my problem is I don't do any marketing, they just stack up. I'm not interested in social media.
But I will market for him, because if you're watching this YouTube video this month through January of 2024, you will be able to see Gary Michaels' art at Fairlane Coffee in Westmoreland on Milwaukee Avenue in Portland, Oregon.
It's a nice little coffee shop, it's a new building, and they do a nice job, and it's nice that they are. Two of us have artwork there now.
Yes, you and Kathleen Brown.
Yeah. Okay, any questions more about framing pastel?
Do you spray your pastels with a fixative before framing?
I do not. The only time I use fixative is if there's an area on the painting that I want to darken a little bit. And fixative does darken it and sort of dulls the color. And took a workshop from Albert Handel many, many years ago. He's quite a famous pastel and oil painter. And someone asked him to do a demonstration. Well, he did a demonstration of pastel, and then he was gonna demonstrate how he uses fixative. So he borrowed a can of fixative, and see the painting is right there. He started backing up and backing up. And backing up. Then he gave a little squirt. So, he doesn't use fixative, and a lot of framers swear by it. If you take a pastel into a professional framer, they probably will want to put fixative on it before they frame it. If you don't want them to, tell them that.
Doesn't that make it darker a
It
little bit,
does.
just a tint darker?
It does get a little darker and duller, and as they say, the only time I would use it is if I want to darken an area, say the lower part of a painting where I want it to be darker. Okay?